we had the collapse of another esports organization, but it was nothing to do with the esports winter, and it was everything to do with the other reason why organizations collapse, and that is just simple human greed, incompetence, and derangement. So I am, of course, talking about Into the Breach. They are gone, and it's kind of crazy to think that in 23, ultimately, we had Into the Breach make the top 8 at a major in Paris. Obviously, it wasn't great. It was due to the flawed RMR system, and they managed to get into the legend stage of a major because they beat, like, I think it was like Bait and Sprout, which is like ridiculous when you think about it. It's a reason why I've always been a big proponent of changing the system and building something like the VRS, although we are starting to see how problematic that's been. Maybe more on that a little bit later on this stream. Anyway, they get top 8 at the major. They're banged out by eventual winners Vitality 2-0. Everybody says, oh, Into the Breach, they're the real tier 1. Maybe the new tier 1 is the friends we made along the new tier 1. And of course, they were never a tier 1 team. They just had used a very weak field at a transitional time, using a flawed qualifier system. But no hate on Into the Breach. I mean, the players did what they had to do to ultimately leverage the system, get those top 8 stickers, get into that Legends capsule, and it was a huge deal for the organization. You might say a success story relative to the investment that went into the Breach. But the problem is, behind every success story in esports, there is a cunt. I don't know where I'm going with this. There is a cunt waiting to unravel all of that good hard work. Very often, it might be one of the people that engaged in the good hard work in the first place. It's just the way it is. You can never rest upon your laurels in esports. There's always someone there looking to ruin it for everybody, and ultimately themselves. It's just a deeply, deeply stupid industry. And so this is what ended up happening. Into the Breach, to wind down operations after significant mismanagement, results in embezzled funds. Now, this is a pretty fucking crazy story. I haven't seen one of these for a while. Incompetence is one thing in esports. Overspending is another thing in esports. Shooting for the moon and missing like it's a shit game of Kerbal Space Program, like the sequel. That can all happen, and one of the secrets to running a bedroom organization, one of the secrets to running a smaller organization, which I think the industry's outgrown, by the way. If you can't come on day one with $10 million of fucking VC, don't run an esports org, unfortunately. That's my opinion now. I don't care if we've got a cool logo. I don't give a fuck. You're just long term, you are going to fail, and along the way, there will be a trail of tears and broken dreams, right? So, anyway, I've seen a lot of incompetence, obviously, in esports, but I haven't seen a story like this one for a while. So I'll get into their public statement, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the embezzlement and some deleted tweets and all of the drama. And by the way, I'm kind of tangentially involved in this. And I'll explain more in a moment. But ultimately, I did that thing that I do, where I had all of this as a story back in, I don't know when it would have been. Would have been maybe September, October last year, maybe November, I don't know. I had it before I went to the major. And basically, I went to the guy we're going to talk about, Slay the Minotaur, Sam Cook, and I said, look, mate, I've got your banker rights. I can spend a weekend writing up all of the shit that you've done and all the shit that you owe. Or you can just start paying it, like your call. And at first he did that denial thing. No, everyone's up to date, Mr. Lewis. There's no way. And I'm like, look, trust me, I've got the receipts. And I showed him one of the receipts that I could show with all the information redacted and blah, blah. And he went, oh, right, that money. Yeah, okay, right. So let's stop fucking around and just pay what you owe. And he went, yeah, we're going to do that. You see, I've got a philosophy when it comes to reporting, especially now, after 20 years. You know, like I am, that maybe one day someone is going to stick around long enough. They would have to probably do, realistically, at least 10 years in a row of sustained journalism with the biggest stories that change whatever scene they're writing about forever. They would have to do a decade's worth of that, because that's what I did. So I'm down to be like, you know, maybe I won't be the GOAT one day, but now, in the here and now, I am the GOAT of esports journalism, which is really like saying, I don't know, like I'm the king of pie eating or something. It's meaningless. But it's still, that's what I did with my life. Past tense, it's over now. So when you hit that point, you don't give a fuck about this story in particular. Like, I don't need the clicks. I don't need the subs on Substack. I don't need the money. I don't need the attention. I don't need everyone to give me a pat on the back and go, fucking well done, Richard. Another one, another huge get, another huge... I don't need any of that. What I do need is players, particularly some of whom I've known for a long, long time, players and staff. I need them to get paid. Is what I really need, because, you know, when you start looking at the numbers, like we'll get to, we're talking about life-changing money for journeyman players that have never had a payday like it in their lives. And when somebody starts skimming off the top or even delaying the payments, I mean, one of the things I also detest is the way it's kind of normalized in esports that, oh yeah, sorry, we were 3 months late with your payment. But it's there now, so don't tell anyone. It's like, bro, like, if you were a real company that didn't pay someone for fucking 3 months, that's 3 months of, like, no rent, no car payments, not being able to feed their kids. Like, that's a fucking, that's a lawsuit. You're getting fucking rinsed. Like, it's just crazy. Like, people live paycheck to paycheck, like in the normal world, right? Like, not everyone has a slush fund of savings where they can just kick it back and fucking say, all right, well, I tell you what, you get me January's fucking payments by June and we'll be all right, yeah? Like, no, not people can't live that way. And so anyway, I'm going to probably write up all the bits and pieces and put it out on the Substack now, because it's just an interesting story. But ultimately, at the time, I basically gave them like 48 hours, and then people got back to me and said, oh, wow, money started turning up. And I was like, right, well, that's another one for the old fucking... We'll put that in the Richard Lewis locker of good deeds that no one will ever talk about. And that's that. Anyway, so I was kind of involved on this one, and, I had a sense that it was going to end badly. There was this thing that Sam Cook was doing as well. Deleted some of his socials, made certain accounts inactive, wasn't responding to people. You know, I've seen this countless times. Like, it was going to be the old rug pull. It was coming. I was like, listen, guys, probably retain a lawyer. I don't know. I wouldn't trust it. So anyway, this was the public statement from Into the Breach. To our incredible fans, supporters and community, recent events at Into the Breach have highlighted significant mismanagement within the organisation. Upon further investigation, we discovered that an individual entrusted with all financial and monetary decisions was embezzling funds for personal use. This betrayal has left Into the Breach in an unsustainable position, and with deep regret, we must begin the process of winding down our operations. This is a heartbreaking moment for all of us. Into the Breach was built on the passion of underdogs and the belief that hard work can overcome any odds. But more than anything, it was built on you, our fans. Your support, your chants, and your unwavering belief in us have been our driving force. We're so sorry to let you down. We're working with legal and financial advisors to handle this situation transparently and responsibly. Our priority is to support our players, staff, and partners during this difficult transition. To our fans, thank you for being the heart of Into the Breach. This isn't the ending we wanted, but your support has meant everything. while this chapter may be closing, we hope to find a way to honor the legacy we've built together with love and gratitude into the breach. Now, as I said, it's a common story. A lot of these organizations, the way they're structured is the founder will take a title, usually like CEO, president, but CEO typically. And what they do is they bring in a mate, or they've had a journey. For every Big Z, there's a Bagsy, right? And what they do is that person gets like a secondary title that sounds important, but ultimately they're more just a boots on the ground kind of guy. And what will end up happening is this person has no oversight. There isn't a board. There isn't any investors. There's no equity been sold. There's one person with access to a bank account. There's one person signs all of the contracts. There's one person gets all of the bank loans, and they can do whatever the fuck they want. And essentially, whatever they're saying the organization is worth, you can leverage loans against the value and all of this stuff. And I've just seen it happen so many times where one guy gets super tempted to just fucking abuse this sudden financial windfall. I mean, as I said, because the story ends with him getting a Gonzo award for manager and executive of the year. But too many people in esports can't handle the fact they're just a regular person. They can't handle it. It's like they've gone their whole lives being normal, right? Nothing wrong with that. We're all normal, right? Like, we get up, we go to work, we come home, we have all these other things in our lives that we have to balance. And ultimately, we're going to live, we're going to die, we're not going to leave an indelible mark on civilization. That's just how that works. And so a lot of people always believe, like, I'm destined for better things. You probably aren't. Law of averages are you're just one of the rank and file. Again, embrace it. Embrace just having a normal, chill life. And they can't. They get they get a taste of status, and they go nuts. And this is what all of the problems in esports stem from. It's like a shit version of entertainment, a shit version of sports. It gives you enough of a taste that you could imagine like being like that. And you go out, you buy the Porsche, you buy the Rolex. All of a sudden, women are interested in me. I'm dressing better. You get the Ozempic, and you just start going fucking crazy. And it's just an industry of fucking broken, insecure people. And this is the root of a lot of the fucking problems that we have, unfortunately. And this is no different. This is one of those stories. So let's talk about the the nature of the embezzlement, which is the word everybody's using. And I guess that takes us to, let's do it in Sam Cooke's own words. Now, this is the one tweet he's left up in regards to it. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like just fucking inadvertently hilarious. It's not funny for the people that are owed money. It's not funny for the people that had employment and now suddenly don't. Indeed, Into the Breach, as I said, relatively, they're a success story. They made $4 million, or £4 million rather. That was their revenue. And they'd recently expanded in 2024. They'd recently expanded into Dota 2. They had people like T-Gov working with them, etc. And everything should have been fine. They even though they were achievement light, they were heading in the right direction. And this one guy has fucked it all up. So here it is. April 8th, 2023, Into the Breach qualifies to the Paris Major. The company experiences massive growth, a legacy, I don't know about that, and if handled correctly, the foundation required to create a fully funded operation supporting several esports aspirations and capable of going years into the future. Veb, Cuba, Momo, Bainey, Blaney, it's Big Z and Bagsy, Bainey and Blaney, Punico, and more recently Bever, T-Gov and Rain all played their part perfectly and deserve every opportunity afforded to them. Brilliant people and innately hardworking. Unfortunately, I, the CEO, was acting as two people. One trying to match their efforts, and another a destructive alcoholic narcissist hell-bent on self-immolation. I think everyone who has met me has likely seen one of these two sides, with the former able to convince everyone around me I was a sensible person, acting responsible, and not betraying their trust, while the latter disappears in fiendish pursuit of dopamine and self-harm, the ultimate caricature which embodies the worst of people, and the worst of this industry. Now, as I said, this is inadvertently hilarious in parts, because there's like this David Brent-esque needless philosophy and trying to be poetic. There's just no need in this particular instance. Like, you've just got to really hold your hands up and then walk away. And as we'll get to, don't insult the kind of like intimation of self-harm and self-destruction, even if it is indeed true and a root cause of the problem. But I wrote in the Gonzo Award I gave him for 2024, I said, you see, for all you esports managers, there exists in you two wolves. One, a competent go-getter determined to do the right thing by the staff you have a duty of care to. The other one has all the decency and self-control of Gollum with access to a VIP account to Ring Hub. That's just the way it goes in esports. When life's losers get even a small taste of success and status, they simply cannot go back to being the person they really are. The whole industry has been ruined essentially due to the vanity of people unable to accept that they're awkward nerds and mediocre talent. So, what the fuck is Ring Hub? Faramir asks. Well, you see, in the analogy that I created, it's an imaginary porn website where instead of porn being on the website, it's just pictures of rings. Because Gollum covets the one ring, you see. So, that was what I was going for with that one. Well, that should have workshopped it, obviously. Or maybe you should just raise your game. I don't know. Anyway, the result is a house of cards repeatedly knocked down and then rebuilt hastily in the wake of my actions. We still managed to achieve a lot despite sabotage, which just goes to show what could have been achieved without it. Today, that house falls permanently, and I nor anyone around me can fix it. Into the breach goes under, people lose employment, salaries will go unpaid, money lost, hate created, all my fault and responsibility. There'll be several legal consequences of this, all of which I'll accept and face. People will be made as whole as possible with what funds are available. This will be managed outside my influence. Sorry will fall rightly flat on deaf ears, but I'm sorry nonetheless. For anyone not wanting to become another cliche example of how to fuck up your life, fix your character flaws, mental and destructive tendencies before you find success. Otherwise, you'll just build on wet sand. I'll keep comms open for anyone that needs it. And there you go, you see. This is what I mean about esports. Success, a top 8 at a major that ultimately you didn't achieve. That comes with all of these caveats that not even the players really spike the football over. I didn't see any of those guys get egos or become fucking maniacs or any of that stuff. They were just fucking normal players that realised they probably overshot. But hey, look, we're going to get a financial windfall. What a cool thing. Oh, Sam Cook's going to fuck us over for that. You know, it's like, what did you really do? It was a logo. Well done. You made a logo that looked suspiciously like the logo of a bunch of other orgs from days gone by. Yeah, wasn't even original in that sense. But that's just the sad truth. It doesn't take much for people to lose their heads. Now, in terms of the scale, and obviously because there's likely to be legal repercussions for this, he did delete some of these tweets. But I was watching this kind of unfold because I knew it was coming down the pipe. And I was like, listen, definitely archive and preserve these ones because there's a chance that ultimately they'll come in handy for any lawsuits the players and staff want to pursue, and they absolutely should, and I hope they're able to get some money back. But I know enough about these proceedings to know probably what you've been paid up to this point is all there is, and that's what you're going to get. Anyway, a note on this. Part of the straw that broke the camel's back was a dispute on the final sticker pay. being a retard, intoxicated, trying to off myself incrementally. So, in other words, again, he's talking about self-harm, suicidal ideation. There's a real strong uptake for doing this of late, and it's like, look, these things might be true. You might be damaged goods. I don't want anybody to perform self-harm or, want to kill themselves or any of that other stuff. But the place for that is the therapist couch. It's not in your public apology to all the people you fucked over. And this is kind of where you realize just how kind of like broken and narcissistic a lot of people in esports are. Every time I see these apologies, people go, I apologize unreservedly. Now, here's a reservation I want you all to make on my behalf because of all the problems I've got. And you go, like, now's not the time, buddy. It's not the time. And as I said, when you look at the numbers here, the financial windfall for, like, these particular group of players that have never seen anything like this in their lives, it's fucked up. They've had to fight you tooth and nail for it, right? Anyway, I signed a contract to pay out the final sticker share, which was delayed legitimately due to banking issues. I'll just say this. The old esports classic is, and by the way, ESL used to pull this one. So, it goes to the top. One of the classics for non-payment in esports is, we've changed our banking system. Joe Miller, or as he's now known, Joseph Miller, working in the financial sector, used to pull that one all the time. Used to say to people, ESL they delay payments to all of the casters and the analysts, and of course they couldn't say anything because it's 80% of the calendar. And they'd be like, why have you changed your banking system 3 or 4 times in a year? Just doesn't make sense, does it? Why? Because it's total bullshit. It was bullshit the whole fucking time, and it's just one of those go-to excuses people will use in esports and feel comfortable with, because the average person in esports probably hasn't even had a job, right? So they don't know. Oh, maybe banks do change their systems. Checks notes every 3 months. Think about the international banking system if that was true. Sorry, we just can't transfer that money today. So. Sorry, guess Wall Street just has to crash. Anyway, and also the fact that he's told this lie a bunch of times in the past. Why would you believe it this time, even if it's true? Anyway, when money issues arose, I reviewed said contracts and figured this. Within this review, discrepancies in pay and contract terms have been identified with the prior CS roster, notably that the team receives half of all revenue related to team stickers 3.9 in contract. As you know, Valve breaks down revenue from the Paris Major into 5 distinct categories. These are Paris 2023 Legends Autograph Capsule, Paris 2023 Legends Sticker Capsule, Paris 2023 Souvenir Token, Paris 2023 Viewer Pass plus 3 Souvenir Token, and the Paris 2023 Viewer Pass. So in other words, all of the things you're buying, and Paris was massive. Paris was one of the biggest, if not the biggest of all time in terms of revenue generation from stickers. If you were in that Legends capsule, you made a lot of fucking money for an org. And yeah, the sales went for a long, long time after the fact as well, because it was the last CSGO major. So legally, and as per contract, the players are entitled to the revenue from the Paris 2023 Legend Sticker Capsule, which would constitute team stickers, i.e. the logo for each team, which can then be stuck onto in-game assets and so named the sticker capsule. What I did was pay the players from all sources, which amounted to around $241,071.61 per player. So basically $250,000 per player, right? That's the money we were talking about. And keep in mind, that's, according to him, what he's saying there, the players get half off the total divided by each of the players. So, the org did okay. By contract, they were owed $178,850, right? So less than $200,000. Now, what that discrepancy is, I don't know. And then he said, however, as per aforementioned retardation and alcoholism, I'd signed a contract promising them an additional $42,000 each, which I underwrote personally, What followed was a dispute which laid bare all of my failures, and it's one small part of this collapse. Just want to be clear, the Paris guys did get paid prize pool, salary, and transfer fees. That doesn't make anything right, however. So, look, for context, that's a deposit on a house. You know what I mean? That's 2-3 years rent if you're renting and you don't want to buy. It's a lot of money. And those players, particularly that lineup, they'd never had a deep fucking run like this before. This was their single biggest windfall, and they had to fight tooth and nail to get it. And even then, what's happening? Oh, right, you're getting half of all of the money that was generated there. We know that the stick has generated millions for people. It's been reported on HLTV and probably Nell and everybody else that ever reports about these things. I'm sure Jake Lucky got to the party at some point. We know it was millions if you were in the Legend sticker capsule, and 50% of the players and 50% of the org. And he's saying it's for all of that. So that it was a 50-50 divide across all of that. So the org made a ton of money. And then, on top of that, there's this 60 grand discrepancy per player. And yet, he's complaining about underwriting a 42 grand additional thing he promised when he was drunk. I just don't know. Something about this just doesn't check out. And it's wild that he's putting these numbers out there in a bid for transparency, and he thinks this is going to make him look good, because it don't. Which is why he later deleted it. Or, maybe he's retained counsel and they've advised him to delete it. But it gets worse, because it's esports. That's just what esports does. It gets worse. Somebody asked him about the finances and how the company could be doing so poorly. And he said, look, the company made £4 million in 2023. I need you to understand, no bedroom organisation makes £4 million in a year. No bedroom org has that revenue. Because the reality is, most of that has come from the stickers, but also they're obviously taking a share of the prize money, and those guys grinded like all the CCTs, all of this other stuff. Sponsors, of course. And I just can't believe Into the Breach, which only recently expanded into Dota 2, I can't believe their operational costs were high. They had a decent gambling sponsorship wedge as well. 4 million is crazy for a bedroom organisation, which is all Into the Breach ever really were. So, in 2023, and then obviously that's the sticker money, and then in 2024 they made another 1.5. At the time all of this started, the rails started coming off. So again, this is a healthy organisation. This is as healthy relative to their size as you could probably hope to be in esports. And then he said, I took around $600,000 in director's loans, which is basically, if you're a director in a company, you've got all your financial fucking records, and you can point to your assets and your equity and your this and your that and your liquidity, and you go to a bank and you say, hey, I'm a director in this company and I could use a one-time cash injection for this thing, and we'll pay it back over these times. Took out 600 grand in director's loans. And he went, but at incorrect times and without due process, and then blew it all on benders and self-harm action. Which, by the way, that sounds like one of those comedic neon signs you would see outside of a nightclub in one of those boozy, swirly montages in a movie. Benders, self-harm action. Come in. We got benders and self-harm action. Right? So that, while it probably doesn't meet the threshold for fraud, because he would have had to have gone through the correct process and get those approved. The fact that he then didn't spend them on the things that he would have had to have put down on a director's application, that's where the embezzlement term comes from. Because that's essentially what it is. It's when you take money for the business, but you spend it on yourself. And he's just publicly admitted to this. And then deleted it, of course. But, internet's forever, so GG. Now, ironically, I could have done this without harming the company and built a life. Yeah. Yeah, you could. Yeah, absolutely. You had a liquid company that was doing well. You clearly already had a decent amount of money. There was a whole fucking drama thing after 2023 about the gambling sponsorship and stuff. I think some of the Rainbow Six guys that they had on the books got like criticism for the sponsor or something. But there's no way this guy didn't have scratch. I mean, look, I'll just show you this actually, because this is kind of always. I mean, look, it wouldn't be UK esports if Smooya hadn't have turned up at some point. And you see, in the CoffeeZilla videos, which loads of people have asked me to talk about, but just think it's self-explanatory content. And yes, me and Coffee did collab, or whatever you might want to call it, a little bit on that. Although we did do a lengthy talk about it all, and then there was maybe I was gonna do an interview, and then it was when I was in the US, and no. But anyway, I mean, it's like the videos are out there. I think he's brought a lot of normie attention to what goes on in the skins gambling world, and I think it has genuinely shocked a lot of people. Probably something governments should potentially look at. But anyway, CoffeeZilla interviewed Slay the Minotaur for one of those videos, and obviously this is on the day all of the shit came out. So here it is.
Leagues is basically funded by the gambling industry and gambling addicts.
You can just see here, this is the tweet that Coffee was referencing. Without gambling or CS skins trading rolling, the entire CS ecosystem would die. Degenerates prop up the scene. I mean, I don't know why he's doing a Legion New Vegas playthrough in his own life, but fair enough, I guess. Thank your local crackhead in Twitch chat, friends. It's because of them you're watching your favorite team play.
So I called him to understand more of how this works. Can you walk me through how gambling functions in the esports economy?
The issue is that, or the issue, I guess, at hand that you're talking about is that this activity is enabled by multiple.
So, this appearance prompted Smooya to come in off the top rope, and he said, "Pretty nice looking apartment for someone who owes $500,000+ to his players. GG." So, I mean, further damaging to his reputation. And also, I mean, look, we don't know the totality of what's still owed. No doubt I'll find out. But I don't think all the money's been paid. And as I said, at this stage, once you announce it's over, that's that. And I imagine, knowing a little bit about, how debt recovery operations kind of happen and bankruptcy processes, there's going to be a number of creditors, and those loans, if they haven't been repaid, that's going to be a priority. So we shall see. Anyway, ultimately, it turns out that, yes, Into the Breach were completely fucked by the whims of one individual. And now all of the players are kind of just out there. Everyone's having to rebuild. It's just been an absolute farce from start to finish. And unfortunately, this is kind of just what these bedroom organizations are susceptible to. It looks to me that this would have just been avoidable if there was at least one other person within the company that had any type of oversight or understanding of the finances, because ultimately there's no collusion, there's no other collaborators in any of this. It's one guy decided to ultimately take his money, well, not even his money, take other people's money, take out loans against the company, and just piss it all up against the wall because he wanted to get a taste of that celebrity lifestyle. What the ramifications for this will be, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's a degree of criminality here. I would have thought if it does meet the threshold for embezzlement, that's a possibility, but really don't know. All I do know is that the players aren't going to get their money. And so, ultimately, all I could do at this point, having done my very best to try and get the players played, was issue a Gonzo award. There he is, with a nice big watch. Manager of the Year, Sam Cook. He's up there now with all of the greats from years gone past, including Nicole LaPointe Jameson. And you can go and read that up on the Substack if you want to get a bit more about my perspective about it. But ultimately, yes, into the breach. Just a sad, sad story and proof that even if you are one of the outliers that come into esports and you do well and you get sustainable revenue and you are able to have relative success with that sustainable revenue, it's never enough. It's never enough. One person can just pull on that fucking strand and it is all over for you. And unfortunately, in this instance, it was ultimately the person that supposedly had helped build up the company, and now it's to the detriment of all the players and staff that worked so hard to get them that notoriety in the first place. In other words, classic esports.